Nehemiah chapter 4, the walls of Jerusalem were still being reconstructed, and opposition began to grow against those working on rebuilding the walls. And it says that Sanballat and Tobiah mocked and ridiculed the workers, and Nehemiah prayed for God's justice so that they can continue to rebuild the walls. And as the wall began to take shape, the enemies became angry and they conspired to attack Jerusalem. And it says that in response, Nehemiah stationed guards and encouraged the workers to trust in God while being ready to fight and defend themselves. So half the men are working on reconstructing the walls while the other half are standing guard with weapons ready to defend those who are working on the walls. And even the workers themselves have tools in one hand and weapons in the other hand. Nehemiah also implemented a system so that they would be alerted if the enemy did approach. In chapter 5, Nehemiah addresses an issue among the Israelites, and this issue was the oppression of the poor. It says that Nehemiah had learned that the poor were suffering because of food shortages, high taxes, and debts that forced them to mortgage their land as well as sell their children into slavery. And God had specifically instructed the Israelites not to oppress the other poor Israelites among them. Nehemiah was outraged when he learned of what was going on, and so he confronted the wealthy nobles and the officials of Jerusalem that were taking advantage of the poor Jews, and he calls a public assembly together, and he urges these people to stop charging interest and exploiting the poor among them, as well as to return their land to the poor. And it says the leaders actually agreed, and they take an oath to restore what they took from the Jews back to them. In chapter 6, the construction of the wall is still going on, and they're still opposing Nehemiah. It says that Sanballat, Tobiah, Geshem, and the rest of the enemies all opposed Nehemiah, trying to lure him out into the plains where they were planning on harming him, but Nehemiah refused to meet them out there. When they couldn't get Nehemiah to meet them out in the plains, they began to spread false rumors about Nehemiah, saying that he was planning a rebellion so that he could make himself king, but he firmly denied the lies, and he prayed to God for strength amidst these deceptive men. Then there was a false prophet that was hired to go scare Nehemiah into hiding in the temple, but Nehemiah was able to discern between a real prophet and a false prophet. But despite all of this that was going on to oppose the rebuilding of the wall, Nehemiah was able to complete it in just 52 days. And this astonished their enemies, and the enemies realized that they could only have done this with God's help.